part 2 of the question and answers vlog. The first question is from Caitlin, and she asks, if you were stranded on a deserted island if you were stranded on a deserted island with one coconut tree in the middle of the Pacific Ocean with no means of communication with the outside world, what would you do? I think I would die. But if it was a deserted island that had somebody who used to live there and they had built a mansion and stocked it with food and writing supplies, then I would definitely just stay there and write and live happily ever after. Her second question is, and when Life Handed You Lymes, you gave an in-depth look into Lyme disease. What are some things you learned from having Lyme disease? Not to judge other people. Yes, that is a big thing I learned, because when I was sick, there were so many days when I looked perfectly normal, because a lot of times Lyme disease doesn't really show outwardly, and so I looked perfectly normal and yet I couldn't do stuff. And so I know a lot of people thought I was lazy, and a lot of people thought I was a snob, etc., etc. And so to learn that, wait a second, what you look like doesn't always determine how you're feeling inside really helped me to give a lot of other people grace. And that's another thing I learned. I learned that I needed to give myself grace and others grace, because there were so many things I wanted to do that I literally could not do because of my health. And to realize that, okay, some people have limitations, I have limitations. It helped me to step back and, well, I can't say I'm not driven, but I'm working on having more grace with myself when my drive is interrupted by health. And the third lesson that I've been working on learning still is to have my identity come from God and not from what I can do, because I love accomplishing things. So I'll be like, oh yay, I'm so amazing because I can accomplish so much stuff, which is totally the wrong mindset and attitude to have. And that's not where I should find my excitement or happiness. Or it's not wrong to feel like a job well done, but it's not good to base your whole entire identity off of it. So that is a huge thing I have learned through having Lyme disease, and I'm still learning. And then Caitlin's siblings ask, how do you come up with such good stories? And that just thrills me to bits, because I love it that you love my stories. And I guess the answer to that would be one quick word, and that would be imagination. I have a huge imagination, and stories just go flooding into it all of the time. Haley Hudson asks, what does a typical day in your life look like? I don't think I have a typical day in my life. My life is just like a crazy random conglomeration of so much stuff. Most days I do some of the same things, which would include writing and reading and working with my non-writing job and cutting grass and all that great kind of stuff. But as for typical, ask me again in 6 months and I might have come up with something. And then her second question is, how do you get past writer's block? I get past writer's block by focusing everything in me on creativity. I love to be creative, and most of the time writing block only comes to me when I have let myself lose focus of being creative. And so then I'll just read books, listen to audiobooks, do things like finger paint or draw in coloring books, or write letters, or even just imagine myself being surrounded by words. And then I sit down and make myself write, and it generally works. Claire says, your blog is such a happy and inspiring place. How do you stay so positive? That just makes me so happy to hear. Thank you so much. I really do want it to be inspiring and encouraging. And one way that I do that is by focusing on what Philippians 4:8 says, which is to be like, you know, thinking of things that are true and honest and just. And that helps a ton. One way that I stay inspiring in my own life is to constantly be thinking of things I'm thankful for. Gratitude to me is a huge plus and very, very important. So when I think of things I'm thankful for, it helps me to not focus on negative. And then she says, how did it feel to see your book in person for the first time? That in and of itself is a huge story, because the book was almost not ready for the debut, and the day of the debut I was a wreck, because I'm like, oh my goodness, what if the book is not here? And there was a big book signing and everything, and we didn't know if the books would actually arrive. So when the book did arrive, I just was walking around hugging it, and it felt absolutely fantastic. And the last question I have is, what is one memory you have of swinging? If anybody has followed my blog for very long, they know that I swing like on a swing set all the time. Not all the time, but pretty much all the time. And so I have lots and lots of stories to go along with swinging, including breaking like 6 swings because of swinging so much. But probably the most memorable swinging experience I've ever had is when I was 12. I got to babysit for the first time, and I'd always wanted to babysit, so I was thrilled beyond words. And there was a porch swing at the house where I was babysitting. My niece was maybe 3 at the time. And we were swinging back and forth, and I found out you could go really, really high on a porch swing, which I had never realized before. And we went high enough that we could actually touch, or I could touch the ceiling with my toes, which is not a smart idea, but I didn't realize it at the time. And next thing I knew, the swing was on the floor of the porch, and we were both incredibly freaked out because we did not realize you could work a swing loose from the ceiling, but apparently you can. So that is my most memorable swinging experience. Thanks, everyone.